Hey, football night tonight. Washington, a 6-point favorite hosting Chicago. And I know you're all looking at me like the amazing Kreskin these days. So, yeah, I'll tip my hand. I like Washington. Chicago's 0-4. I feel sorry for Chicago, but Washington looked great in Philadelphia last weekend. So I've already gone 25 large. I've taken Washington -6, and you can do what you want to do. I, of course, am betting on the BetParx app. You can bet in person at Parx Casino in Shippensburg. What a gorgeous day. If you were driving to Shippensburg, PA, you would do that if you're in Hagerstown, Maryland, or Winchester, Virginia, or Chambersburg, PA, or Carlisle, PA, and so many other places. See the foliage, go to the Shippensburg Casino, and you will be thrilled. The all-new Parx Casino, now open in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. That's less than an hour from Harrisburg, the state capital. Enjoy the gaming, the betting, the Liberty Bar and Grill. Have a cocktail. Enjoy yourself. Get in on all that action. The all-new Parx Casino, Shippensburg. It's located just off Interstate 81. Visit parxcasino.com. Got to be 21 for the casino gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for some more of the headlines from Smerconish.com, the Thursday edition of the website and newsletter. The headline, Nikki Haley vaults into second place in New Hampshire. And then in the text of this USA Today story, because it pertains to a Suffolk University Boston Globe USA Today poll. Wow, it's a lot of people involved in that poll. It says she has rocketed into second place with the support of 19% of likely New Hampshire Republican primary voters, the highest she's polled in the Granite State so far. I don't mean to take anything away from the former governor and former UN ambassador, but okay, she's displaced Ron DeSantis in this state, New Hampshire. DeSantis now is a distant third at 10%. All other non-Trump candidates are polling in the single digits. But still the gulf, not only in New Hampshire, but everywhere, between Trump and the entire rest of the field. I mean, the entire rest of the field combined can't deny Trump based on where he is now. USA Today's coverage also has some scenarios. I mean, I like gaming it out. What could happen that would benefit Nikki Haley? All right, here are their three scenarios. One, all the candidates drop out and endorse her, but then they make the observation that I've made, which is that even if every other Republican candidate dropped out and endorsed Nikki Haley, Donald Trump would still win New Hampshire if the figures stay where they are today. Even if all the other candidates dropped, he's at 55%. So this talk of it needs to be a one-on-one race, unless there's some give in the vote that he's got, it isn't happening. Second scenario, Trump loses support in New Hampshire and Haley benefits. They say not really, because if Trump voters sour, the alternative they favor, the Trump voters, is not Haley. So if he tumbles and the 55% are looking for somebody else, they're more likely to go to DeSantis than they are to Nikki Haley. Scenario 3, Democrats and independents flood the Republican primary and knock out Trump. Their analysis says trying to change the party proportions on Election Day seems highly improbable, not impossible. Democrats could jump into the New Hampshire Republican primary and cause havoc. Normally, the Republican presidential primary electorate is made up of about 60 to 65% registered Republicans and 30 to 35% independents. So if past history is any guide, Real Clear Politics has the averages. So it's not just one poll that I'm giving you. I can give you the composite of all of them. The Real Clear Politics average, national polling. And of course, we've talked about how, the nomination process is state by state, and the Electoral College, of course, is a state by state analysis. But it's still an interesting barometer. Where are we? Nationally, the average of a half dozen polls. Donald Trump is at 56% and change. DeSantis is in second position nationally at 13.5%. He hasn't moved, or he hasn't moved up. Haley is in third position at 7.4%. Ramaswamy at 5 and change. Pence at about 4%. Scott and Christie at 2% plus. Burgum at 1%. Hutchinson not even at 0.5%. CNN just released their own poll showing former President Trump leads his closest rival by about 40 points in nationwide polling. According to the latest roundup by the CNN poll of polls, they've got him at 56%. So I don't want to get too consumed in this, but the point is all of the polls have a consistent message. All of the polls are telling the exact same story. So they would all have to be off if this isn't the status quo. Meanwhile, 63% of U.S. adults agree with the statement that Republican and Democratic parties do such a poor job of representing the American people that a third party is necessary. This represents a 7 percentage point increase from a year ago, the highest since Gallup first asked the question in 2003. So what does that lead you to? Well, it leads me to wondering, all right, what about no labels? Because Trump is far and above the other candidates. Biden isn't facing, up until now, any stiff opposition. And 63% want a third party. By design, I mean, it's everything No Labels said they needed in order to fill that void. Which brings me to an editorial today in the Wall Street Journal commenting on the effort to knock out No Labels. It's a super PAC, a Democratic super PAC. Richard Gephardt is involved in it. And the Wall Street Journal has, my attitude about this, which is to say, hey, it's not the fault of No Labels. It's the fault of the Republicans and Democrats from not providing somebody new. Quote, so a group trying to give voters a Democratic alternative is somehow a threat to democracy? We've repeatedly keel-hauled, I have to look that up, Mr. Trump for his dereliction on January 6 and his fraud delusions and much else. But it's strange to say democracy will end if voters in 2024 cast ballots and elect whomever they want. And then they conclude by saying this. The reality exposed is that even in the CSOR poll, 21% of the country is unsatisfied enough with Biden and Trump to contemplate taking a flyer on a ballot line that is still in the process of being born. There will be third-party candidates regardless of whether No Labels fields one. Cornel West already declared Robert F. Kennedy seems to be moving that way. The opening for this is the fault of the Democratic and Republican parties, not No Labels. Either party could gain an advantage by nominating somebody new. Yeah, RFK comes to Philadelphia to make his announcement on Monday. What's the deal, TC? We don't know where, but we know the time.
Right. Yes. So if you go to the website, you can register to know where it's going to be held. It's going to be held at high noon on Monday. And when you register closer to the time, evidently there've been issues with like the having who's showing up, and there was an armed man at one of his events. Evidently, they're going to wait until the last minute. That's what I know.
There are safety considerations. But in that video, in that video, Bobby was like, come one, come all. I think he said something like, if you've been waiting for an event, this is the one. So that's on Monday.
So this is the event, but you have to register. So to find out where it is. So do that.
All right. More now from Smerconish.com, the Thursday edition of the newsletter. If you're a subscriber, I know you're loving the Steve Breen editorial cartoon today. Spot on, the news of the day, funny, insightful, just like Rob Rogers, just like Jack Oman. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes a little added surprise. These three prize-winning editorial cartoonists are drawing things exclusively for the newsletter. So share it with a friend and turn them on. But I'm not giving it away. You've got to be a subscriber for that. It is also a Thursday, which means it is a TC After Dark day. Let us address that subject. What do you have cooking?
You know what? This is about my recent trip to Utah. I was there last week, and it's in a rarity. I said yes to a friend's invitation. It's not something I usually do. You know me, Michael. I didn't take a lot of time off work until recently, kind of brought on by my hip replacement when the world didn't end when I took a week off. I was planning on taking 2 days off, and guess what happened? I was okay. You guys were fine. No one had a collapse. And so it's an encouragement to say yes to little and big changes. And it's a good one. It's a really cool one. Plus, I tell you a little bit about a women's retreat in Utah. You might want to hear it.
Wow. Were there pillow fights?
Michael, if I had been able to bet $1 gazillion that you would ask that question, I would have bet it, and I would have just won.
TC,
I'll leave it at that.
I ask what everybody wants to know. That's my role. I have my finger on the pulse, and everybody wants to know.
Are you going to use the word panties? Because then
if you had confirmed the pillow fight, that would have been the appropriate follow-up. But you didn't, so I've moved on.
Geez.
You know how I've always
We're
said to
moving
you,
on, thank goodness.
in conducting a good interview, one needs to listen and then follow where the evidence leads. If you'd gone in a different direction, we'd be pursuing a whole other inquiry right now. But you didn't. Fine. That's fine.
I didn't.
That's fine. Keep it to yourself.
Good.
That's fine.
Good talk. Okay. Fine. Okay.
Lots of voting yesterday. 26,607 votes. That's really like a high watermark for a Monday through Friday vote. We do better on Saturdays with the added CNN audience. Should Democrats in the House have saved Kevin McCarthy so as to avoid chaos? 69.75%. Let's just say 70-30. No. I'm in the 30%. We had a great conversation on this yesterday. Alexander Nazarian wrote a good piece, senior White House correspondent for Yahoo, addressing exactly this subject. And his conclusion is not that it all came down to the appearance Sunday morning that Kevin McCarthy made on the CBS Sunday morning program with Margaret Brennan. Remember, we played the tape yesterday and well, it wasn't just speculation. Some Democrats said, hey, I couldn't vote for McCarthy because of that interview, because in the interview, he blamed us for almost causing the government shutdown. But in this analysis, they say it's all about January 6th. They say that Kevin McCarthy said the right things after January 6th in terms of the threat that was posed by Trump and his supporters. But then he backed off. And if there was one person who could have played a role in sort of preventing Donald Trump's reemergence, it was Kevin McCarthy, and he didn't do it, and that's why they didn't support him. Today's poll question: should Biden, despite campaign promises, continue border wall construction to manage migrant surge? There has been an about-face, at least in some respects, by Secretary Mayorkas and the Biden administration relative to the wall. Here's the lead from the Associated Press. This is our top story today at Smerconish.com. The Department of Homeland Security posted the announcement on the U.S. Federal Registry with few details outlining the construction in Starr County, Texas, which is part of the busy Border Patrol sector seeing a high illegal entry. According to government data, about 245,000 illegal entries have been recorded so far this fiscal year in the Rio Grande Valley sector, which contains 21 counties. So what's going on here? The Clean Air Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Endangered Species Act, some of the federal laws that have now been waived by DHS, Department of Homeland Security, so that they can build portions of the wall. I keep saying, three strong issues that Republicans possess: crime, the border, the economy. Democrats have abortion. I don't think that's enough. On the issues, yesterday, another poll that I shared with you, people said that they disliked Republicans more than they dislike Democrats in Washington, but that the Republicans had better issues, at least now. You'll remember that earlier in the week, I talked about the Golden Bachelor TV show. I watched the trailer. I haven't seen the show. But the reason that I'm particularly interested, this is the show about, it's a reality TV show where a 72-year-old widower, seems like a really nice and handsome guy, at least from the trailer, is looking for love. And I said, TC, to you, he's 72 years old. I know there have been a lot of these reality spin-off show. I don't watch any of these. There's another reality show that I'm interested in. We can talk about that. We'll get to that. Yeah.
We'll get to that.
But in this case, what I said to you was, I wonder what'll happen in the demo. Because I see ratings, television ratings for my CNN program every week, and they're broken out. There's like the P2 number. That's everything with a pulse. I do really well in the P2 number, but of course, what the network is most concerned about is the demo, the 25 to 54-year-olds. And take it from me, when you get out of that demo yourself, you become less focused on how am I doing in the demo. But in this case, we now have data as to whether in the 18 to 49-year-old demo, whether they're interested in watching the 72-year-old look for love.
I have to say, I was dubious, and I think I even said it on air that it wasn't going to be as successful, and I was so wrong. I wasn't just a little wrong. I was really wrong.
It's a hit. It's a hit. Yeah.
The numbers are huge.
The numbers are huge. In the 18 to 49 demo, it's the best showing for the franchise, meaning all of these Bachelor shows, since After the Final Rose, that was, I guess, a series finale, follow up to season 26 from March of 2022. So there you go. The youngins will watch the old timer look for love.
I think they're tuning in. They must be appealing. And now it kind of makes me want to watch it. I mean, obviously, all this talk made me watch that other show that we've discussed.
Right.
So perhaps now I'm going to have to watch this.
So Adrian Horton has written a piece for The Guardian that caught my eye. Of course, you can find it in Smerconish.com. A new low. Explicit UK show Naked Attraction causes a stir in the U.S., which has unsurprisingly, these are her words, rattled American viewers upon its arrival to U.S. streaming. Since the show's 6 seasons landed on Max last month, it's become an object of consternation, curiosity, and clear obsession. I'm trying to think of which of those C's applies to me. Consternation? No. Curiosity? No. Yes. Clear obsession? Not really. Not yet. It has topped the service's most watched list, and not without the controversy. Predictably, the Parents Television Council, one of several U.S. media watchdog groups, has deemed the show pornographic and a new low, and demanded that it be removed from the service. Trollish conservative pundits have blasted at its immoral and decadent nature, the natural outcome of a hedonistic society where the only thing that matters is the sex instinct, says Ben Shapiro.
I mean, I think that makes it sound much more titillating than it is. If I had to describe it, and I've been trying to describe it to people who haven't watched it, I would say it's more clinical than anything else. Actually, astonishingly so. The lights are bright. It's like your genitals with Klieg lights. No one wants that. It's just horrible. Like, oh my God. There's a reason candlelight is so romantic and fabulous, because it makes everybody's skin look better. This is the opposite of that. It is just, people are just out there and loving it. It is amazing. From
the Guardian write-up, they describe it as the most unerotic set of all time. To your point, a harshly lit room with potential dating options delineated by the neon colors of a children's carnival. The 6 prospective partners are evaluated first on their lower halves, genitals included, generally with commentary on grooming habits and, of course, size and shape. In one episode I viewed, writes the writer, the picker was delighted by a willy dance.
Oh boy! Well,
I'm offended.
The British
I'm with the parent. I just want to be clear. I'm with the Parents Television Council on this. I just think it's
starting now.
Starting in a week.
Okay. Watch the other seasons.
I am not a Powerball jackpot player. Maybe I should be. Monday's prize had a $490 million cash value. Less than half the advertised $1.04 billion, making it the tiniest 10-figure jackpot ever. And this was before taxes. This is really an interesting piece.
And then no one won again last night.
Right.
So now it's going to keep going.
So if you're wondering how much are you really going to pocket, look at this story at Smerconish.com, because it analyzes in the context of interest rates whether you want to take the lump sum or whether you want to take the annuities. And I thought it was like a really interesting analysis that there have been other billion-dollar prizes before, but this one is going to come with the lowest net to you. So just be advised as you're preparing to make your plan. From the LA Times today, The Tenant from Hell. It's a story about a periodontist who has an Airbnb tenant, and she refuses to move. She's been there for, 500 days, TC, and she wants
a year and a half.
She's
been there for a year and a half.
And what's the deal?
It is a convoluted story, but it definitely makes you not want to open your house to Airbnb. But basically what happened was she moved in for a long-term Airbnb, which evidently, according to the LA Times story, is something that Airbnb people tend to like, because then they don't have to move people in and out every few days. So she was going to move in, I think, for like a 6-month period, $105 a night. And then with this whole series of events that she said the apartment was not appropriate for living because the shower was not registered. And then she refused to pay rent and refused to move out. And then he at some point tried to lengthen her time to be nice, but tried to help her find a relocation and move her somewhere else. And then Airbnb dropped him because he had lengthened the time. So now he doesn't even have Airbnb to help him. And basically now she's a squatter. She's staying there. She won't move out. And they are literally attached. Like the little apartment where she is attached to his house. It's part of the deck. And she won't move out, and he doesn't. Like, they're in a legal battle.
He says he's scared to walk to his car because there's a woman who won't leave his guest house. She says she has the right to stay. So far, a judge has ruled that under the city's rent stabilization ordinance, he has no legal recourse to evict her. It is a tenant from hell.
It's an unbelievable story.
Situation. Please go and vote at Smerconish.com on the poll question today about Biden building a border wall. Give TC some play on TC After Dark. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Register for the newsletter. I think that's the exhausted list of all the things I would love you to do. Have a great day.